The Declaration. A low hum vibrated through the bridge of the Resolute Dawn, a Terran diplomatic cruiser stationed at the Galactic Core. Ambassador Elias Voss sat in his command chair, staring at the holographic display before him. His chiseled face remained calm, but his fingers drummed a slow, steady rhythm against the armrest. Something was wrong. The Galactic Concord had held for 3,000 years, an unprecedented peace between thousands of species. War was a relic of history, and humanity, one of the younger races, had only ever known peace. It was an age of prosperity, of scientific advancement, of boundless exploration. Yet something in Elias's gut told him that peace was a fragile thing, easily shattered. "Ambassador, we are receiving a priority transmission from the High Council of the Galactic Concord," said Ensign Reina Vasquez, her voice betraying an edge of unease. "Patch it through," Elias said. The holographic display flickered, revealing the grim face of Chancellor Zerval, a reptilian Zoran known for his measured words and unwavering diplomacy. But today his vertical pupils were narrowed, his spiny crest flared in distress. "Ambassador Voss," Zerval said, his voice clipped. "I regret to inform you that the Concord has been broken. The Vether have declared war." The word sent a ripple of shock through the bridge. The Vether were an ancient warrior species, but they had been one of the Concord's staunchest enforcers of peace. For them to break it now was unthinkable. Elias exhaled slowly. "Do we have details on their demands?" "No demands. No ultimatums. Only a single message broadcast across the galactic network: the age of weakness is over. We reclaim the stars with fire and blood." Zerval's expression darkened. "Their fleets have already begun mobilizing." Silence hung in the air. Ensign Vasquez clenched her fists. Lieutenant Harrow, their tactical officer, muttered something under his breath. "How are the other races responding?" Elias asked, his mind already working through possibilities. "Most are in shock. Some are calling for immediate surrender, others want to negotiate. But we know the Vether, there will be no negotiations." Zerval's expression hardened. "The Council is convening an emergency session, but we lack a unified strategy. We must know, where does humanity stand?" Elias felt the weight of 1,000 years of diplomacy pressing against him. Humanity had thrived within the Concord, but they had never been tested in war. The other races had seen humans as innovators, traders, explorers, never warriors. He tapped his fingers against his armrest once more before standing. "Humanity does not kneel," he said simply. "We stand." Zerval studied him, his reptilian gaze unreadable. "Then I pray your people are ready, Ambassador. The Vether are coming for us all." The transmission cut, and silence reclaimed the bridge. "Sir," Lieutenant Harrow said, his voice tinged with something between amusement and disbelief, "did you just commit humanity to war?" Elias turned to face his crew, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "No, Lieutenant. The Vether did that for us." Preparation for war. Far beyond the diplomatic corridors of the Resolute Dawn, deep within Sol's military command, Admiral Helena Darrow sat in a dimly lit war room surrounded by the finest military minds humanity had to offer. A massive galactic map floated in the center of the room, displaying red streaks pushing outward from Vether space. The enemy's forces were vast, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. The Concord's fleets, spread thin and untested, were already scrambling to mount a defense. Darrow steepled her fingers. 3,000 years of peace, she murmured, eyes scanning the hologram. 3,000 years of complacency. They think we're weak. General Alexei Kovalchuk, head of the Terran ground forces, let out a low chuckle. "Well, aren't they in for a surprise?" Admiral Darrow turned her gaze to the officers assembled around her. "The Vether believe humanity is soft, that we lack the stomach for war. But they have never seen what lies beneath our diplomacy, our treaties, our negotiations. They have never seen us fight." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Humanity's history was bloody, filled with wars that had shaped them into what they were today. "We will not strike first," Darrow continued, "but when they come, we will remind the galaxy why humanity has never lost a war." Meanwhile, on the fringes of Ether space, aboard a dreadnought looming over the Concord's border, Supreme Warlord Zarnak watched the battle preparations unfold. His warriors stood ready, weapons gleaming, their crimson banners unfurling in the artificial breeze of the war chamber. Zarnak's second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Yulash, approached. "The humans have declared their intent to fight." Zarnak let out a deep, guttural laugh. "They are a race of diplomats and traitors. They have no idea what true war is." Yet their response was immediate, Yulash pointed out. They did not hesitate. Zarnak's laughter faded. He had expected fear, stalling, perhaps even outright surrender. But humanity had answered with defiance. "Intriguing," he said, though he dismissed the thought quickly. "No matter. When we crush their first fleet, they will beg for mercy. The humans are merely another footnote in our conquest." Yet as he turned back to his war table, a sliver of doubt crawled into his mind. He had underestimated foes before and had survived by learning from such mistakes. Something about humanity's response unsettled him in a way he couldn't quite explain. For the first time since the war began, Supreme Warlord Zarnak hesitated. Back in human space, the moment the Vitharess War Declaration reached the galactic network, the response was immediate, but not the one they expected. Across the hyperwave channels, laughter erupted. Human diplomats were seen wiping tears from their eyes, shaking their heads and leaning back in their chairs as if they had just heard the greatest joke in history. News outlets in human space played clips of the Vither Supreme Warlord's thunderous declaration, splicing it with comedic sound effects, mock translations, and slow-motion replays of his furious snarl. The Vither, a species forged by war and conquest, had expected panic, mobilization, and desperate pleas for peace. Instead, they were met with memes. First contact. General Lars Brenner, Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Force, sat in his office aboard the UHS Resolute, humanity's flagship dreadnought, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. A live stream from the human colony of Epsilon Prime showed people in the streets celebrating, bars offering Vither surrender specials, and a particularly bold tattoo artist offering free ink to anyone who wanted Galactic War Day 1 permanently marked on their skin. "Commander," said his AI assistant Athena, her voice smooth and measured, "the Vither fleet has begun moving toward our outermost colony in the Perseus Arm. Estimated time to contact, 72 hours. Brenner exhaled through his nose. "And their fleet composition?" "Approximately 4,500 ships. Primarily war barges and heavy assault cruisers. No known super weapons detected." Brenner shook his head. "They're trying to fight a war with tech that was outdated a millennium ago." Athena flickered into holographic form, her translucent figure tilting its head. "Sir, perhaps we shouldn't underestimate them. The Vither have conquered dozens of species." "Species that didn't know how to fight back," Brenner replied, pulling up tactical displays. "Athena, what's our current fleet status?" "Battle Group Omega is positioned at the Perseus defense line. 1,200 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts and the new Titan-class battleships. Admiral Chen reports all systems green. The first engagement came sooner than expected." The Vither, confident in their overwhelming numbers, struck the mining colony of Kepler 442b with a force of 800 ships. They expected quick surrender from the lightly defended world. Instead, they found 200 human warships waiting in perfect formation. Admiral Chen, commanding from the bridge of the UHS Titan's Wrath, watched the Vither fleet approach on her tactical display. Her crew was calm, almost relaxed, a stark contrast to the frenzied war cries echoing from the Vither communications. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "they're hailing us. Audio only. Put it through." The bridge filled with the guttural roar of Warlord Korash, the Vither fleet commander. "Weak humans. Surrender now and we will grant you swift deaths. Resist, and we will." Admiral Chen cut the transmission. "Signal the fleet," she said calmly. "Weapons free. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity." The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. The human fleet moved with precision that stunned the Vether. Their ships danced between the lumbering Vether dreadnoughts, striking with surgical accuracy. Advanced particle beams and quantum torpedoes tore through Vether armor like paper. When the smoke cleared, 743 Vether ships were debris. 57 had fled. The human fleet had lost 3 destroyers and suffered minor damage to 2 cruisers. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as footage of the battle spread across the networks. The Vether, who had seemed invincible just days before, had been crushed by a numerically inferior human force. Supreme Warlord Zarnak stared at the battle reports, his massive hands clenching into fists. "Impossible," he growled. "Korash was one of our finest commanders." "Sir," Yulash said carefully, "perhaps we underestimated." "No." Zarnak's roar echoed through the war chamber. "It was a fluke. A single battle means nothing. Deploy the Grand Fleet. All of it. We will crush them through sheer numbers." But even as he gave the order, doubt gnawed at him. The humans had fought with a coordination and ruthlessness that reminded him of the Vether's own ancient enemies, the ones they had fought millennia ago before achieving their dominance. The ones who had nearly destroyed them. The tide turns. The Vether Grand Fleet was a sight that would have terrified any species in the galaxy. 15,000 ships of war, battle-tested and bloodthirsty, converging on the human frontier like a crimson tide of destruction. Every Vether warrior aboard dreamed of the glory they would win crushing the upstart humans. They emerged from hyperspace at the Proxima Centauri system, expecting to find scattered human defenses. Instead, they found something impossible. Waiting for them in perfect battle formation were 20,000 human warships. "How?" Zarnak whispered, staring at the tactical display. "How did they mobilize so quickly?" The answer lay in humanity's greatest secret, one they had kept hidden for 3 millennia. While other species had grown complacent during the long peace, humanity had never stopped preparing for war. Their merchant vessels carried hidden weapon systems. Their mining ships could deploy military-grade shields. Their civilian shipyards could be converted to war production in a matter of hours. Supreme Warlord, his communications officer reported, voice trembling, "The humans are hailing us." On the main screen appeared Admiral Darrow herself, her expression calm and professional. Behind her stood the flags of 100 human worlds. "Supreme Warlord Zarnak," she said simply. "I am Admiral Helena Darrow of the Terran Defense Force. You have made a grave mistake." Zarnak's lips curled into a snarl. "You think your numbers frighten us, human? We are Vether. We have conquered." "You've conquered farmers and philosophers," Darrow interrupted. "Species that had forgotten how to fight. But we never forgot. We never stopped preparing. And now you face the descendants of creatures who turned their own homeworld into a battlefield so many times that they learned to wage war among the stars." The transmission cut. The Battle of Proxima Centauri would be remembered as the turning point of the war. The Vether fought with the fury of their ancestors, but they were facing an enemy that understood war in ways they had never imagined. Human ships moved in perfect coordination, their AI-assisted tactical networks allowing them to react to threats faster than any organic mind could process. Their weapons were precise, devastating, and deployed with a cold efficiency that shocked the Vether warriors. But it wasn't just technology that won the day. It was something deeper, something that had been bred into humanity through countless generations of conflict. When Vether boarding parties breached human ships, they expected to find terrified civilians. Instead, they found soldiers, every human, from the youngest ensign to the oldest admiral, fought with a skill and determination that spoke of an entire species raised on the art of war. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the Vether Grand Fleet was scattered to the stellar winds. Zarnak's flagship, the Crimson Vengeance, limped away with barely a tenth of the fleet that had arrived so confidently. Across the galaxy, the other species of the Concord watched in amazement as news of the human victory spread. The mysterious, diplomatic humans had revealed themselves to be the most formidable military force the galaxy had ever seen. But perhaps the most shocking moment came when Zarnak, wounded and defeated, received a transmission from Admiral Darrow. "Supreme Warlord," she said, and there was no mockery in her voice, only professional respect. "You fought well. Your warriors showed courage. Now I offer you something your people have never given their enemies, a chance to surrender with honor." Zarnak stared at the screen, seeing something in the human admiral's eyes that he recognized. She was a warrior, like him. And she was offering him something he had never expected from a human. "Mercy. What are your terms?" he asked quietly. "Victory and peace." The treaty negotiations took place aboard the Resolute Dawn, where this conflict had begun. Ambassador Elias Voss sat across from Supreme Warlord Zarnak in the same chamber where he had first learned of the Vether declaration of war. But this was a different Zarnak than the one who had confidently launched his fleets against humanity. This was a warrior who had seen his entire worldview shattered, who had learned that there were forces in the galaxy more dangerous than the Vether themselves. "Your terms are unexpected," Zarnak said, reviewing the treaty documents. The human terms were indeed surprising. No territorial concessions. No tribute. No executions of Vether leadership. Instead, humanity proposed something unprecedented: integration. "We don't want to destroy the Vether," Elias explained. "We want to understand you. Your people are warriors born. That's a valuable trait in a galaxy that may face threats we haven't yet imagined." Admiral Darrow, present via hologram, nodded. The Vether military tradition, combined with human technology and strategy, could create the greatest defense force the galaxy has ever seen. But only if we work together. Zarnak's scarred face showed confusion. "You defeated us utterly. Why offer partnership instead of conquest?" "Because," Elias said with a slight smile, "that's what makes us human. We don't just win wars, we win the peace that follows." The Treaty of Soul was signed 3 days later, witnessed by representatives from every major species in the Galactic Concord. The Vether warrior clans would integrate with human military command, forming joint task forces to protect the galaxy's frontiers. Vether worlds would retain their autonomy while joining the broader Concord community. But perhaps most importantly, the galaxy had learned the truth about humanity. Chancellor Zerval, speaking at the treaty ceremony, put it best: "For 3,000 years, we saw humans as the gentle species, the diplomats and traders who brought peace to our conflicts. We thought them weak because they chose negotiation over war. Now we understand the truth: they were not weak. They were restrained. And there is nothing more dangerous in the galaxy than a warrior who chooses peace until forced to do otherwise." In the months that followed, joint human-Vether training exercises became legendary throughout the galaxy. Vether warriors learned human tactical flexibility and technological innovation. Humans learned Vether discipline and combat traditions. The partnership proved its worth when the Andromeda Collective, a machine intelligence from beyond the galactic rim, launched their own invasion 2 years later. They faced not just the scattered fleets of individual species, but a unified force commanded by human strategic minds and Vether warrior hearts. The invasion lasted 6 weeks. The machines never took a single system. Supreme Warlord Zarnak, now serving as Joint Military Coordinator for the Concord Defense Force, stood with Admiral Darrow on the bridge of the newly constructed UHS Concordia, watching the last of the machine ships flee back to dark space. "I have a confession," Zarnak said quietly. "Oh. When we first declared war on the Concord, it was not conquest we sought. It was a worthy enemy. We had grown, bored with peace. We thought the galaxy had forgotten how to fight." Darrow nodded. "And did you find what you were looking for?" Zarnak's laugh was genuinely warm now, nothing like the brutal roar he had once been known for. "Admiral, I found something better. I found allies. Ambassador Elias Voss stood in his office aboard the Resolute Dawn, now flagship of the diplomatic corps, looking out at the ships of a dozen species flying in formation. Human vessels flew alongside Vether dreadnoughts, their crews working together with an efficiency that had become the envy of the galaxy. Ensign Vasquez, now promoted to commander, entered with the daily reports. Sir, the Council has asked if you'd be willing to mediate a trade dispute between the Altarian Collective and the Rigel Commonwealth. Of course, Elias said. Schedule the meeting for tomorrow. And Commander? Yes, sir. Make sure to invite Captain Yulash as military advisor. The Vether perspective on resource allocation might be useful. As Vasquez left to make the arrangements, Elias reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy had learned that true strength came not from the ability to wage war, but from the wisdom to know when war was necessary, and the skill to win the peace that followed. The age of weakness was indeed over. But it had been replaced not by an age of conquest, but by an age of understanding. And in the depths of space, where the machine intelligence nursed its wounds and planned its return, sensors detected something that gave even artificial minds pause: human and Vether ships patrolling together, their combined might a warning to any who would threaten the peace of the galaxy. The message was clear: the Concord was no longer defended by diplomats and merchants. It was defended by warriors who had chosen to be guardians. The end.